So in the series of learning Python programming language, in the previous video we have worked on a project, password generator. I hope you have done that project, right? Because that was not too tough. And till now we have discussed for loop in Python. So now we will be discussing while loop in Python. There is no do while loop in Python like in other languages, C, C++, Java, for while and do while, but there is no do while loop. So now the next loop is while loop, and we will be seeing each and everything about while loop, how this while loop is different from for loop, and when to use for loop, when to use while loop, as well as while with else block also. The working syntax with the help of program examples will be seeing this practically also. I will show you, right? Now, okay, while loop basically, see, why we use loops. When you want to execute a statement or set of statements repeatedly multiple times, then we use loop. You put those statements in loop and that's it, right? Same, while loop is also used when you want to repeat a statement or block of statements, when you want to execute block of statements repeatedly until a given condition is true, until a given condition is satisfied, right? Okay, let's see the syntax. How you will write while, then here you will write condition, whatever condition you want to give, or you can say expression. Any expression also you can write, and that expression would be evaluated ultimately in the form of boolean value, true or false, and based on that, if this thing is true, then here you can say the loop body, or we can write some statements, a single statement or multiple statements also. That's it. Don't forget to put here colon, right? So now these statements would be executed repeatedly until this given condition is true, right? Okay, now with the help of flowchart, let me just show you. We are entering into the while loop. So first thing is what? This condition would be tested, right? If this condition is true, two cases can be there, true or false. If this condition is true, then these statements would be executed. It may be a single statement or multiple statements, and those statements should be indented, right? Because indentation is the only way to denote in Python that this is a block and these statements are within this while loop, right? There is no these kind of braces, right? Now, after this statement would be executed, again condition would be checked, again true or false, and this would be in loop. If this is condition is false, then simply exit from while loop. See, it's exit from while loop, not exit from actually program, because once this condition becomes false, the whatever you will write immediately after this while loop, those statements would be executed. That's it. So this is syntax, this is simple flowchart and working of while loop. Now, see, let's take a simple example here. So if you take the same example, like if you want to print number from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or any number, then using for loop also we can do. If you do with this while loop, then simply we take a variable, like any variable, ABCD, count, I or anything. We start with, we initialize with 1, and while the condition I will give while count less than equal to 5, print count. But not that's it, you have to increase this count also, count plus count plus 1, right? So first time count is 1, condition would be checked, condition true, count would be printed 1, then count becomes 2, then 2, condition true, again 2 would be printed, then it becomes 3, like this till 5, 1 2 3 4 5, like this 5 would be printed, and after that it becomes 6, condition is not true, exit from the while loop, and whatever you will write immediately this, that would be executed, right? If nothing is there, then exit from the program. Simple working. But here, see, here we know, like this also we can do with for loop also, this thing. Then why while loop? In which cases it is beneficial to use while loop? For loop is more like a iterator in Python, right? Now, basically we use while loop in those situations when user, in advance user or we don't know the number of times, how many how many times these statements would be executed. In this program, we know how many times these statements, these two statements are part of this while loop would be executed. How many times? 5 times. In advance we know, because we have written this program like that. Till 1 to 5 I want to print. But what if you don't know in advance how many times these statements, whatever statement you will write, those would be executed? User will decide that number of times these statements would be executed, right? So in those situations, it's better to use while loop, because for loop is obviously when we in advance we know the number of times the loop body would be executed. In that cases, for loop would be used, right? But while loop, I have told you the situation, and I'll tell you this thing with the help of example and program also, right? We'll see the difference properly with the help of program. But generally, basics of while loop, I guess this is clear to you. And in one statement also, within one statement also, you can write down these things like this. Simply I can write here print count, then semicolon, then count plus equal to 1. This will also print 1 to 5, right? Or on a list or tuple also it will work. That is also fine. Suppose I have a list. List 1 is equal to 1, 2, 0, 5, 6, something like this. And so in condition I can give while list 1. While list 1 means this is the list. So obviously we have item in list. So while list 1, if you want to print like print hi Jenny. But if this is the program, then how many times this program would be executed? Think. It would be an infinite loop, because every time this condition is true. So you have to give something in this to stop the execution, right? So suppose after printing one time hi Jenny, let's remove one item from the list. Then again second, then third, then fourth, then fifth. Then after printing 5 times Jenny, the list would be empty, and then this condition would be false. That's it. So we have, I have told you when we were discussing list, we have a function pop. This will pop any element from this list, and this will also return that element. So if you want to print, you can print that element also. So now at this point of time, how many times Jenny would be printed? Hi Jenny. 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because there are 5 items, right? And after that, one by one, like first if this would be printed hi Jenny, then list 1 dot pop, one element would be popped. Suppose 5, then only 4 elements are there. One by one, each element would be removed from the list, and after printing 5 times, this list would be empty. So this is how also you can use while loop. Now how you can use while loop with else block? Same we discussed with for loop also. After this while body, we will have else body, this, and this else body, this would be executed when this condition becomes false. To make this thing very clear, see, if the condition is false, or if we are out from the while loop, no matter how, maybe after successful execution of this loop, or maybe you have used break statement in between, right? Then whatever you will write immediately after this while loop, those statements will be executed. But if you have written else part, then this else part, this else body would be executed when this condition becomes false. But this else body would not be executed if the loop has been terminated forcefully using break. These are some control statements like loop control statement, break, continue, pass. Those we'll be discussing in next video, like in detail. Break is just to exit from the loop, break the loop. If you have used break here, then this else body would not be executed, right? I hope you got what is the use of this else block and when this else block would be executed. I'll show you this thing with the help of example. Let's see. Okay, let's take these two examples. Same, we are printing from 1 to 5. So in this case we have used else also, while with else in else block. But in this case, same, we will be printing from 1 to 5, but within while loop we have put one more condition. If count equal to 3, in that case break. Break means exit from this loop. So what would be the output in this case? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be printed. Now once this count becomes 6, this condition becomes false, and once condition becomes false, this else block would be executed. Because here we have successfully terminated this loop. We haven't forcefully terminated this like using break or any exception is not there. If exception is not there, then only this else block would be executed. Then in else block would be printed. But in this case, first count is 1. Condition true, it will print 1. Count plus 1, it becomes 2. Condition true, again it will print 2. Right? Now it becomes 3. Now again this condition would be checked. If 3, count is 3 equal to 3. Yes, this condition is also true. Now control will enter here and break. Means out from this while loop. But this time this else block would not be executed. Because we have forcefully terminated this loop. So this block would not be executed if we have written any other statement like print out from loop. And here also we have written this statement print out from loop. So in this case in else block would be printed, then in out from loop would be printed. But in this case this would not be printed. Only 1, then 2 and then out from loop. So I hope you got when this else block would be executed, right? Significance of this else block. Fine. So just to show like else block is just to show that yeah, successfully we have this loop has completed its execution or its iteration, all the iterations successfully. Right? There is no break. That is indication. If else block would be executed means there is no break in this loop, right? Now what if there is one quiz question for you. If I modify this something like this, less than 1 and same print count and all. So what would be the output in this case? So this is for your assignment. You have to let me know in comment section, right? I have just updated this condition. Everything is same, count less than 1. This is the condition this time. So what would be the output in this case? Now let's see the difference between for loop and while loop with the help of example, right? See, I have told you for loop is used when in advance we know the number of iterations of the loop, right? But if you don't know in advance how many times the loop would be executed, the loop body would be executed, then we know usually we use while loop, right? So how in this case you will terminate the loop if you don't know how many times the loop would be executed. So what condition you will put here and when the loop would be terminated, how you will terminate the loop. So in this type of situation we provide a special value, sentinel value. It is called sentinel value. It is a special value which is used to terminate the loop, and generally if you are working on positive integer then -1 is this value. We give -1 like -1 to quit, enter -1, or sometimes we use like press n, yes or no, then press n to quit, or press q or capital Q to quit. So these kind of values, these are sentinel values, right? So let's see this with the help of an example. So this thing, better we discuss this thing with the help of, program. Practically I'll show you. So now I'll show you the basics of while loop with 1 or 2 example, then while with else, and then we'll see the difference between for and while loop with the help of programs, right? So let's create a new file here, while_loop.py. Start with the basic one. We'll just print from 1 to 5, right? Okay, so we'll simply print here this variable count, but if this is the case then it would be infinite loop because the condition would always be true, so it would be keep running. So we will increase this with +1 and that's it, right? Okay, now let's write down one more thing. After this, immediately after this while loop, we will be writing out from loop. Let's run this. See, see, it will print 1 2 3 4 5 and then out from loop, right? So simple one. Or in negative also, like it's not like that you have to only increment this whatever variable you will take, you can decrement also this thing. So 5 to 1 if you want to print, then you can take here this 5 and condition would be now at this point of time count is greater than 0, right, or greater than equal to 1, but at this point of time you have to do minus, right? So it will print, see, 5 4 3 2 1 in reverse order and out from the loop. Simple one. Or in one line also you can print this thing, like print this, then put semicolon here and then this line and out from loop. Let's run this. See, same output you will get here, 5 4 3 2 1 out from loop, right? Now if we are writing the else part here, how to use else? Okay, see, after this while loop we will simply print 5 to 1, right, and after that one else block I will be taking, right? So here simply I will print in else block, that's it, right? And one more statement out from loop, that is not within this while loop or within else block, that is outside of this while else block, right? Let's run this and see what output you are getting here. See, in else block is also executed 5 4 3 2 1 and out from loop, because in this case we have successfully completed this iteration of the loop without any termination, forceful termination, or without any exception and all, right? So once the condition becomes false, then else block would be executed and then the statement also. But if I modify this, if this variable count equal to 3, then exit from the loop. And how to exit from the loop? We use a break statement. Break means out from this loop right now, right? Break the loop, break the the execution of the loop. So at this point of time, see, it will print only 5 4 and then out from loop. Else part would not be executed because we have forcefully terminated this while loop. So these iterations, this execution of the while loop is not completed. We have forcefully terminated this execution with break. So at this point of time, else would not be executed, right? Now let's see the difference between while and for loop. So there may be a case like user will enter a number, and once user will enter -1, exit from this loop, right? So how you will do that thing? First we will take input from the user, a number, using input function. So obviously we will typecast that into integer, and we simply tell -1 to quit. Right? So a number would be entered and that would be converted in integer at the same point of time, right? So while this number not equal to -1, till then these statement, whatever you will write, that would be executed, right? So maybe simply I'm going to print that number, print number, right? Nothing we will do, and then obviously you have to ask again, like enter a number. So same line will be writing within this loop also, right? Enter a number -1 to quit. In else also, suppose I am writing in else block and out from the loop, same thing, right? Okay, we have to put here colon. Let's run this one. Enter a number -1 to quit. So I am entering 5. It will print 5. Then again it will ask enter a number -9. It will print -9. Again it will print enter a number. And this point of time, if I enter -1, then in else block, then out from the loop, right? At this point of time, else block would also be executed because we haven't written any break or anything else. Once the condition becomes false, successfully termination of this loop, condition becomes false, and then at that point of time, obviously else block would be executed if you write, right? And then whatever statement you will write immediately after this while or else, that would be executed, right? So here -1 is what you can say special value or sentinel value to exit from this loop, right? We don't know how many times we want to print that number, or how many times we want to execute whatever you will write here. Maybe I'll print here, print Jenny, or I'll do any calculation here. Then I'll ask 10 or 15 or 50 lines of code I can write within this while loop in this block, and then again I'll ask. So one time maybe I'll enter two number 5 and 4, and then I'll enter -1. So two times these statement would be executed. Again, if a user run, then it will enter 10 number, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 or any other number, 10 number, and after that it will enter -1. Then 10 times these statement would be executed. So user is controlling how many time this loop would be executed. In advance we don't know how many times this loop would be executed. So in this type of situation we use while loop, right? And better to use, and here one more thing, we can use those what I can say boolean values also, true and false. So if I write something like this, okay, let's comment out this thing, and if suppose I am taking count and then while I am writing while true, then print count. We don't know how many times this count would be, this statement would be executed. We will do count plus 1. This is just simple example, right? So to break this thing, we can write down something like if count equal to once count becomes suppose 5, then break, right? And in else we will be writing like same thing we will write in else block, and after that simple statement I am writing, sorry कितनी गलतियाँ करती हूँ मैं यार, out from loop. Okay, so here also we have to put one colon. Let's run this. See what it will print. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once the value becomes 5, break. So out from the loop. So we have forcefully terminated this loop. That is why no else block would be executed at this point of time. Out from loop only this statement would be executed, right? So like we can also use, this is one of the good use of these boolean values, true and false. In while loop we can set this thing. So this loop would always be true until you give something to break, to terminate this loop within this thing. So that you can put any condition based on your program, right? It is just a simple example. Now I hope you got, why when we use generally this while loop and how we can use if you don't know in advance number of iterations of the loop, right? Okay, here is one assignment for you. You have to calculate the sum of positive integers only, right? Ask a number from the user, and as soon as a user enter any minus value, exit, or maybe as soon as a user enter 0, exit from there. So whatever user will enter, either positive or negative integer, do sum. Once when you have to quit, once user enter 0, this is the condition. So this is for your assignment. Pause the video and try this out. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a variable total, and at first total is 0, right? Now we'll ask from, obviously we'll ask from the user a number, right? And at that point of time only we will typecast this into integer. And I'll be just mentioning 0 to quit, right? So we have typecasted this number. Now it's time to put some conditions. So while this condition I am putting number not equal to 0, not equal to 0, then just do total equal to total plus number. right? Or total plus equal to number. In short form also we can write. And again obviously we will ask from the user a number that would be in loop, but again and again we will be asking from the user, so that thing you have to put in loop. And after that, after this loop, you can simply print total, or total is if you want to print something like this. So you can write down here like total is, then comma, and from this variable, or f string also you can use here, right? So let's run this. Okay, I am entering 1, simple number I will be entering, then 2, then 3, then I am entering -1, then I am entering -2, and now 0. So what it should print? Only 3. So the total is 3. Once you enter 0, it will quit. So at this time of this point of this situation, in this situation you can use these type of situation, you can use while loop, right? Because in this case also we don't know how many times this loop body would be executed. We don't know, because the condition is once user enters 0, then only you have to quit. Maybe before entering 0, he or she can enter 50, 100 numbers. I don't know. Maybe 10 numbers, 20 numbers, 50 numbers. I don't know. Once 0 would be entered, then quit. So I hope you got while loop basics, difference between for and while and all. So I hope you got what is while loop in Python and how to use this, how this is different from for loop, right? When to use for loop, when to use while loop. Now in the next video we will see loop control statements like break, then continue, then pass, right? So now I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye, take care.